Hello, everyone, and welcome back to What Businesses Need to Know Right Now. Today, we're talking about bookkeeping for profitability with Briana Cavanaugh. Welcome.
Hi,
It's good to have you here.
it's good to be here.
I'm Nettie Owens, owner of Sapari Solutions, and all of this is part of a series that you can check out more about on whatbusinessesneedtoknow.com. So with that, we'll dig in. Briana is CEO of Bliss Your Biz, PBC, and we're going to talk about what that is as well, because I had to ask before we got started. And she serves women-owned businesses who are scaling and seeking support. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here. It's nice to see you again.
Yes, likewise. I'd love to just start off with what is PBC, because I had to ask. I had no idea, and your answer was so interesting. I said, let's just talk about that when we go live.
Yeah, so when people talk about incorporating, there's all kinds of choices that you can make about incorporating, and we are a B corporation. We have a B Corp designation on top of a C corporation, and that means that we can have a mission that actually in addition to profits, we have a mission that drives our business, and then actually we can be held accountable for our mission alongside of any other, like corporations are driven by profits, right? And that's one of our main things that we get mad at corporations for, is that like they're completely driven by profits. Well, this is to change that, and it's like then you can have your mission and be driven by your mission and be held accountable to that, not just to money.
So public benefit company, that's PBC. And what is your mission that you can be held accountable to? I'm just curious now.
It's a good question. So we are accountable to supporting women business owners with financial services. So both accounting and education. That's our mission. Yeah.
Excellent. And here you are.
And here I am.
So you can check that box today that you're sharing, educating. So this whole series is really to dive into what we need to know right now. That's a little different than maybe what we needed to know yesterday. And I'm curious for you, what's coming up that's different now that people need to be, specifically business owners, need to be paying attention to regarding bookkeeping, profitability, and money in general?
So the big thing, there's a couple of big things that are coming up. So in this moment, there's taxes. There's also the PPP loans and EIDL and all of this money stuff around the pandemic. And there's a ton to know. So we are not going to spend all the time going through this stuff.
No, right.
But what's important is to understand that these things are available and that there's a ton of stuff and support available if you can get to it, if you have your financials together, if you know whether you're profitable and whether you've, made money or lost money over the last, 14, 15 months. And so for folks who are, like, a lot of folks have to scramble because they don't have their financials together. They don't actually know what's going on. They're not sure whether they're profitable. And that actually makes a huge difference in, can you apply for a loan or a PPP? Like, do you know what's going on? Can you make these decisions? Do you know whether you could repay a loan if you got one, et cetera? So all of that stuff is all wrapped up in, are your financials together? Do you know what's happening?
That's really significant because now it's important. Obviously, we have all this, at least in the United States, all this government money that's pouring in. I'm sure other countries are handling it in their own way. It would be important to talk to your, financial advisor and planner and accountant and bookkeeper, all of whom have pieces of this puzzle. But anytime, we as business owners should really be on top of our numbers in general, so that when these opportunities come up, or these challenges come up, we can make decisions from that informed place. And that really brings us to the question number one, which we may have kind of already answered, but why is financial clarity so important?
So if you look at the difference between folks who they do their numbers at the end of the year versus folks who are doing their numbers consistently, the difference is information. Do you have enough information to make accurate business decisions right now? Right. So people come to us and they're often like, well, we want projections, we want a budget, we want all this stuff, but you can't do that if you're not tracking your numbers, right? I can't give you projections for the next year if we don't know what's happened in this in this last year, this last couple of years,
Right.
right? And the more information we have, the more we can plan, the more we can get clear, the more we know whether that class you taught or thing that you did was actually profitable and whether you should run it again. And especially for people who are running multiple service lines, it's really, really, really common that they just don't know if one of their service lines is not turning a profit. Right. And it's okay if you're doing some kind of loss leader where you're like, I'm going to take a hit on this and make money in the back end. But you need to know whether that's true and whether that back end is actually making money.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, it's important to know if our back end is making money.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh my gosh, I'm really enjoying how you're laying this out, because you're right. Oftentimes we have a lot of different things going on. We might be looking at the numbers overall, but we're not necessarily looking at each piece and how it plays into that. And if we want to make a decision to say this will be a loss leader so that I can make money over here, without tracking those numbers, we can't make those informed decisions. What else are you seeing as businesses? Maybe they're tracking some numbers, they're starting to get to this decision-making point, this clarity, and they're deciding to scale. What do you see happen with many businesses when they're starting to scale?
So there's a couple of things that get in the way of scaling well. So one is people try to scale too fast and they don't have enough revenue, and that sort of topples their business over. So one place to look for that is pricing. Like, most, especially women business owners, need to raise their prices. Like when they come to us, we start looking at these things and you're like, oh, maybe you're profitable, or maybe you're just under profitable, or maybe you're sort of borrowing from the next month to pay for the current month, which is, a common thing. And so making sure that you're clearly pricing things in a way that's actually going to work for you. And that as you scale, that's going to continue to work for you. So, if you find out suddenly that you're going to have to pay a bunch of staff people to do something that just you were doing, right, it changes your profitability metrics.
Oh, absolutely. Right. I can remember that very distinctly when I brought on employees, and I actually didn't realize it, that concept that you said of pulling into the next month's income to pay this month's income, it wasn't clear for months that's what was happening, because I had not accounted for the cost of bringing those employees on. I accounted for their immediate dollar amount, hourly wage, but there are a lot of costs around having employees, and so that's a really great point that you make. Is there something that people can do to scale well?
Yeah, it takes some planning. And I know that people are like, let's scale really fast, but slowing down a bit and making sure that your planning is in place and your financials are in place, and that you can continue to check them and continue to true your planning to your actuals. And so that you have not just, oh, yes, this should go in this direction, but like on month 3, is that still happening? How far off are you from your planning? And do you need to make any course corrections? Because you don't want to wait 6, 8, 12 months down the road and be like, oh, we're $100,000 short, because we didn't notice that we have this cost overrun, or, we haven't been doing blah that we would otherwise normally be doing. So
having checkpoints in the plan, it's not just what will you make through the year, but like you said, month 1 you should be here, month 2, and it's not always an even split. I think that's kind of a common mistake, is to just say, if we have 12 months, we divide by 12. But as you're scaling, it might be hitting a small milestone and the next month's a little bit further along. Any other last thoughts on what we should be knowing or doing, as the pandemic? I would say that we're starting to see opening up, which is, I know, so joyful. What would you say?
Yeah. So the big thing is really if you're unsure in any way, get some help. Right. And that really is the thing that can make the difference, is, having a thinking partner who's like, oh, I've seen hundreds of these businesses. I know what I'm looking at. Have you considered this, that, or the other thing? That's really the big thing. If you don't know, you don't have to guess or pretend or make it up. You can ask for help. That's the big thing.
When it comes to money,
please ask for help, because otherwise you get way down the line and you're like, oh crap, if I would have done this 6 months ago, if I would have asked for help a year ago, I would have been much further down the line.
Oh, so true. So
it happens all the time.
you have provided some great resources here. If you haven't yet, check out blissyourmoney.com/7-profitable-hacks. And Briana's got some tools and resources for you there. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.